Howdy, folks. AJ, Rebel with the Cause, here at the Waldport Community Center, where we're here for the June City Council meeting. Today, there's going to be a presentation from both the Lincoln County Sheriff as well as the library. There's going to be a proclamation about the 2026 Beachcombers Days Festival, as well as a presentation about the Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan. For continued business today, there's going to be more discussion about cargo containers inside of the city limits, memorial benches, which are apparently planned for July, as well as a recycling program from Dull, which will be coming up later in the year. For new business here today, there's going to be updated fees for the fiscal year of 2027 for the city, as well as a review of the Dull rates. There's also going to be acceptance of a resolution for the source water protection plan, apparently on the agenda, as well as the draft for the fiscal year of 21 for the City of Waldport's audit. This has come with much anticipation. I know a lot of people have been expecting this and wanting this, but this is coming, some may say a little prematurely, as this is only a draft audit before a final review and from the auditor and the state. Along with the draft audit, there was a letter sent, apparently, that contains or describes significant internal control deficiencies. I'm not exactly sure what that means, folks, but I would definitely wish to see that letter that is apparently for the counselors and management only, but we shall see about that. But that does raise concern about a draft audit being accepted before the final audit is brought to us, with those concerns outlined so clearly. And also, folks, there is the recall for the city council that is going to be occurring soon. There was a petition put forward, and it was accepted with enough signatures by the county and the city. So this July, by July 14th, there will be an election held for a recall of the city council. Get your voice out there and make it known. You can vote yes or no to have the city council recalled. Anyway, folks, let's get into the city council meeting and see how it goes. Thank you for joining me.
Hello and welcome to Thursday, June 11th City Council meeting. Call to order, please.
We have Mayor Lambert.
Here.
Council President Dunn.
Here.
Councilor Booth.
Here.
Councilor Woodruff.
Here.
Councilor Morris.
Here.
Councilor Stevenson.
Here.
Councilor Thompson.
Here.
Okay, the quorum is present.
Excellent. Does council have anything to say about the consent agenda? Any questions or concerns or amendments?
I just wanted to thank for having the library report and the sheriff's report too. The library report was really nice. I think we asked for those reports and now we're getting them, so very good.
Yeah. I just had one question on who excuses council and who doesn't excuse council from missing meetings.
I believe it has to be, you have to alert the city manager within a certain amount of time that you won't be attending.
Okay, because in Lincoln City and in Newport, the council votes. So I was just curious if we're not policy or.
But they vote on whether or not you can be on.
No, we would say if we were missing a meeting or not missing a meeting, and then we would vote to excuse it or not to excuse it. So I was just curious about that protocol. Any motion to approve the packet?
Are we gonna do anything with the proclamation or not?
I was told that we didn't read proclamations.
Oh, well, Jordan.
They've got a presentation.
Oh, all right, okay. Just didn't want them to be neglected.
Oh, I moved to accept the meeting minutes.
Anyone second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then I wasn't there, so.
Okay, so Jamie and, Morris and, okay, and that was for all consent agenda items?
Right, yeah.
Oh, I said approve. Yeah, yes, please change it to that. If I can use those words.
Okay, then public comment. Jan Hansen.
Right, so then the last one.
Oh, I didn't know we had to do it in order. Can you present your question? I didn't know there was an order. I'm sorry. I was told I could call public police.
Do as you wish. Jan Hansen, and I've been a resident of Wallport for 37 years. First of all, thank you for showing up today to conduct the city's business. The same way you have continued to do, despite the months of being attacked and denigrated by a group of questionable characters, many of whom have hidden behind anonymity. The continued spewing of misinformation, character assassination, and vitriol has been astounding in what was once a peaceful, lovely community that I was proud to call home. Despite all this, you have sat in your chairs, faced the audience, and proceeded to do the job you were elected to do calmly and effectively. For this, you are not only the subject of a recall, but also the recipient of a lawsuit by a bruised ego. You definitely deserve to be called the Super Six. Among the misinformation now is some claim of $8 million being unaccounted for, as well as claims of a false audit. As Mr. Cutter has pointed out, bookkeeping for the problem year was done through the Cascade West Council of Governments. Perhaps they should be attacked for alleged incompetence. Personally, I have served on the Budget Committee for a number of years, and I think I might have noticed $8 million missing. My main purpose for speaking today is to ask a question that everyone voting in this recall election should be asking. Just exactly who do you have in mind to be replacing these counselors? I have not seen any names put forth for potential candidates. Just a few references to people who are supposedly qualified and very interested in reforming the city, mainly by firing the city manager. Who do you expect to replace the city manager? It's not easy finding a qualified individual. Are you planning on the mayor? Well, this time she didn't want the job. She also said she wasn't going to sue. Why haven't these qualified, interested people never run for election? I am concerned because this has been a very focused, expensive campaign to try to take over a city that is the envy of many others of our size. We have a track record of improvements in the last few years at little or no cost to the citizens because of the grants that have been awarded. Those grants are not just handed out to anyone. They have to be earned and qualified for. The current forecast under Dan is to be debt-free by 2030. We have no unpaid entities screaming for money. We have reserves in place for emergencies, and we have money earning interest in an LGIP account. Just exactly who wants to take over a progressive, financially responsible city, and just exactly what do they plan to do with it? Think about that before casting a ballot.
Teresa? Teresa Carter?
Well, I'm glad to see that on the agenda that audit is not there. And the reason is because there are laws with the Secretary of State's office as well as with the League of Cities. Because voting on a draft is not appropriate because drafts can be changed. and then you guys will be doing it a second time. That doesn't make any sense to me. Your time is all valuable, just like mine is. And that's what I wanted to point out, is that we need to get it to the Secretary of State's office, get it approved by them, and then vote to accept it. Thank you.
Thank you. Todd Swift, please.
Hi. I wanted to use the whole 3 minutes to correct a mistake I made, but I'll try to make that quick to address another comment. Last month at the meeting, during the road district discussion, I was asking why grant money was spent for Corona Street instead of, the taxpayers. Dan did say that grant money was not used for that, and I said, I recall you in another meeting saying it was grant money. I went back and I looked at the minutes of that meeting, good minutes, by the way, from last May. Dan is right, I made a mistake, that was not grant money, it was from the sewer reserve fund. That being said, the sewer reserve fund still comes from the taxpayers. And if you don't want to call it taxpayer money, fine, it's from the citizens who pay taxes. It's still on the water bill, it's still our money, and we're using it to annex people that have not paid taxes the whole time on the property. That being said, I've heard a lot, for those that don't know, but you probably do, I run the free speech forum. And I always get a lot of back and forth about anonymous comments. I will say publicly, both sides do it. And I never reveal who they are. And people always question me about letting anonymous comments fly. And I run it the best I can based on the First Amendment. So, Susan, I love the First Amendment. That being said, there is nothing in the First Amendment about Facebook and anonymous posts. So I had to go research elsewhere. In the Federalist Papers, there is a name called Libertad, which was a pen name that forefathers used. Multiple forefathers used that name so that they could speak out against the government and the British couldn't find them. So it's the colonial version of Facebook anonymous posts. So that's why I allow it. It's not to get back at anyone. And since I have a little extra time, let me clarify, I'm not with Beachcombers, I'm not with Justice for Walport, I'm not with the recall group, I'm not whatever else. I'm just a guy that has a Facebook page that I allow people to post on. Thanks, peace out.
Todd, I just want to say for the record that I've never commented anonymously either. Can you just vouch that, unless you have seen me do that?
Heidi has never commented anonymously on the free speech forum. I can tell because I'm the administrator and I can see exactly who the posts are coming from.
Thank you. I just wanted to clear that.
Susan also has never posted on, actually none of you have, on the council.
Great. Okay, everyone, I just saved the best for last, the public comment from our Beachcombers Royal. So, that would be Heather Johnson, I believe, is presenting.
Hello, council members and Dan Cutter. I have to keep my glasses on, sorry. My name is Heather, and I'm representing the newly organized and improved Walport Beachcomber Festival Group. This year marks a very special milestone. It's the 70th anniversary with the theme 70 Years in the Making. We're excited to bring renewed energy, tradition, and community spirit back to this beloved festival. We have a variety of fun and engaging events planned, including the return of our fabulous car show, sponsored by First Security and Scotia, organized by Karen Couch. A special effort to bring back some of the retired royalty court members, celebrating our history from past to present. Another exciting tradition we're bringing back is the bed races, now called the Chuck Hill Memorial Bed Races. Speaking of which, we'd like to officially challenge the Walport City Council to a friendly race against the Walport Public Works. And if Public Works declines, We're sure we can find a few volunteers from the recall group who have plenty of energy to spare. All jokes aside, we think it'd be a fun way to bring everyone together for a little community fun. We're also doing a new kids parade where children can decorate bikes, wagons, scooters, strollers, and more, letting their creativity shine. We have an expanded kids zone filled with active and engaging fun, including a new attraction from Puddle Pirate Party Rental Bounce Houses. That took me a while, sorry. A vibrant vendor market featuring local businesses and artisans and some from very far. An exciting outdoor movie night that will be fun for the entire family. And of course, our traditional community parade along with many other exciting activities. So one of the main reasons we're here today is to extend a special invitation. We would be honored to invite you, Heidi, Greg, Rick, Susan, Jamie, Michelle, Jerry, and Jen, to participate in this year's parade. We have a float reserved just for you. Each of you plays an important role in our community, and we would love the opportunity to recognize and celebrate your contributions as part of this year's festivals. Thank you for your time, your service, and your continued support of our community. We hope to see you all there.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And with that, I would like to present the board.
Yes, please.
Okay, we are the court for 2026. Me, I'm Cassidy, and I'm a recent court graduate. I just graduated last week.
Congratulations.
And this is,
I'm Nevaeh. I'm a now junior high school.
and also with us, we have our junior court, and this is, and today we got a special gift with you in addition to inviting you to be in the parade. We'd like to each give you a hat.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you so much. I know, but I'm like,
I am. Not my first time in this house. Although, I was not reached out to as royalty yet.
Yes.
I was on the court.
Jamie, are you in town?
I'm not, but still.
That's what we heard.
I'm not gonna be here. It's like the first week back in years.
I know I waved at you last year.
Yeah, so sad.
Okay, are we ready now with the fun and back to business, I guess? So I would like to move on the agenda, section 7, section G, the draft of the fiscal year 21 City of Worldport audit to the top of the budget, since it seems that the city has had a lot to say about it today. I have not read any statements put out by the city today. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to
I
read
did not.
anything.
I saw it today.
You saw, I was at work, but I was told on my way here that there were quite a few statements put out by the city. So for clarification, I was just curious as to who on the council here has gotten a packet from the auditors. So the first time I saw the packet was in this council packet?
Yes.
For everyone, and so we've only had it for less than 72 hours.
No.
I got my packet on Tuesday. Maybe Monday night, so I checked it Monday when I got off work and it still hadn't posted. So you feel you had enough time to go through all of the data?
I did.
Yes.
I read it several times.
And do anybody have any questions that they'd like to talk to the auditor about?
Yeah, I only have one question.
Did you email the auditor?
Oh, no,
Oh, you just have a question that you were gonna share today?
I don't know. Maybe Dan knows where it is. I have no idea.
So I guess my next question is the auditor presenting today?
No.
No.
This,
What is
I think there's a complete misunderstanding.
Yeah.
This is, as has been explained, this is a draft copy of the audit that we released. So normally, this would be done entirely internally by management. We would review the audit, and we would send back any concerns or questions we had to the auditor. They would finalize the audit, and then they would present the audit to the Secretary of State's office and ourselves, and the council would then vote to approve the audit. We are presenting the draft of the audit so that if there are any questions that the council would like to, or clarifications in the audit itself, we can get that feedback. Normally, this would just happen internally in my office.
So
We
this,
put it on here so that you would have the opportunity to ask more direct questions before the audit was finalized.
but we were not gonna speak directly to the auditor.
Not at this meeting, no.
So for any, not the next meeting either?
When the audit is presented, the council will have the opportunity to invite the auditor here. I, would also suggest that this is an audit from data that is 4 years ago. I'm not sure what information speaking of the auditor is going to get, but I would certainly not inhibit or prevent the council from inviting the auditor here and asking any question they so desire.
So I don't feel like I had enough time to go over this 80-page packet that's 5 years delinquent. Nor do I feel like we've had a chance to speak directly to the auditors. If I remember correctly, in January, we were told we were not allowed, anyone, I believe it was actually Tony Kamakis that was told he was not allowed to call the auditors or talk to the auditors about the audit.
I don't understand why I would need to talk to the auditor. Like, if I have a question about a number, I could go talk to Dan to figure out what the question is.
Well, my
I would
question
never
had to
think
do
to
with
call
the
the auditor.
significant findings that we didn't get the letter in the packet. Like,
This
I'm
is
concerned that we got this
informational
packet, there's no letter.
Well,
This is
Madam Mayor,
provided
I
for
would simply suggest that A, that comes with the final, and B, the findings would be about financial practices of an organization that is not the city, but the Cascade West Council of Governments, who were the financial agents of the city during this year.
So I'm under the belief that this draft of an audit is performative. Because we're not getting this from the auditor directly, it came from you. We didn't get a chance to speak to the auditors about it. And it says there's significant findings, whether or not it's with you or not. I feel that I just don't understand why we're not allowed to speak directly with an auditor or have an auditor present this draft. But there being so much suspicion and a recall happening, it feels like this was a perfect opportunity to have a third-party professional come and speak to the public about this very controversial audit.
But I think that's the point, is that we look at the draft and if you really see something controversial, then that raises a thing.
My suspicions went up that I didn't feel that I was receiving the entire packet.
Okay, but you think you did, but
And the packet didn't come from the auditor. When
But who
I had
gets
a
it?
municipal audit done, the auditor sent the packet directly to the council.
every single person on the council?
I mean, there's one
And that's
copy and paste.
exactly
sure
what
we can
happens when you get the final audit. We are trying to increase transparency for providing you the audit draft that would normally be only seen by the city manager and city finance manager. We're providing that to you so that you can ask questions that we might take them back. If you'd rather not, Madam Mayor, have that transparency, we can certainly do it behind the scenes, which seems to be your preferred method. And then you can see the mayor, and you can see the audit when the audit is finalized.
I prefer to have complete communications relayed, not copy and pasting of paragraphs. If there was a
You have
letter,
the entire
The whole thing's right there.
That is exactly what we were sent by the auditor.
This is
That
the
is what
whole thing.
and so you didn't email it to the council. You
I
didn't
don't.
say,
It
we
is,
received
I
this,
don't.
this report, here, I mean, you've had
It
it
is in
since
the
May 20th. You've had it
It's in
since May 20th.
that's when we get through it, and then we put it in the packet at the earliest opportunity for you to be able to all see it.
Why couldn't you have emailed it us all to see it and have time to review it before the meeting? Why did you delete it for the council packet?
Because normally this is not a document that goes out to the council. This is the document, again, that is internal to the city. And then it goes back to the auditor. I decided that in the best interest of transparency, to put it in the packet so that you could ask questions prior to it being finalized.
So where is the letter that she mentions that she put in the packet?
It's not, the letter is a separate thing, which is the opinion, which comes with the final of the audit.
So we don't have that yet.
We have a draft of it,
Yeah,
And
there
we
is a
asked-
draft.
and we asked for additional information on it
Right.
because, much like you are finding and pointing out these significant findings, we are asking for language that explains it so people understand what it means.
Well, and we do not have the letter describing the significant internal control deficiencies that were,
Exactly.
okay, so
That
when do we
we,
get that?
we are, comes with the final, that is the auditor's opinion, which comes with the final audit.
Okay, so.
So there's a part where it says over expenditure in general funds, public works and water funds.
And that links to
So you
page
just
60.
go over.
Yeah, that was my question. That was my question.
I have the exact same.
Show me
question.
that. I looked for it on page 16, I couldn't
Yes.
find
And
it.
surrounding pages.
Buried in those numbers where they, and again, I had a question on that simply because when you look at the overall general fund, it shows a surplus balance.
Right.
So I am unsure specifically with that reference, which is part of the comments that the city is sending back in their analysis to the auditor of, can you explain this, can you clarify this, can you maybe change the page number on this? Because I think that's simply what it is.
Yeah, because it says there's supposed to be a note, and I read pages and some pages behind that.
Other than the auditor's opinion, which comes with the final thing, you have the entire audit packet that was presented.
I know, I'm just saying, can you ask them for whatever the heck that means, because that makes no sense.
That is part of the feedback, so the city provides feedback directly. Normally, this would all happen behind the scenes,
No, I get that.
and the council would get presented at the final of the audit. We are trying to be more transparent by providing you the draft, so you can see exactly what we see and the exact findings that we have.
Well, and also it's a chance for us to ask questions before the
And
final.
say, hey, Dan, can you make sure to include, when you
Right.
get back to the auditor, that we want more detail on this, we would like extra explanation on that. They'd like nothing better to finalize it, send you the opinion letter, send it to the Secretary of State, be done and paid. But this is an opportunity, and we're taking this extraordinary step simply because it is older and that there's so much controversy around this. We wanted to make sure that you were able to see very specifically before the audit's final, that there was no finding of wrongdoing. Now, they have mentioned absolutely that there are some questions on internal controls. I would point out again that during this entire time, the internal controls we're talking about was contracted to a third party. So the next year, we're gonna have another third party who ran our accounting, and that will be their internal controls. It
So
will
it's
be-
like you're deferring each audit to a previous company instead of saying.
Well, that's-
Under your management. 'Cause
Well,
you manage
that's
that.
who ran the finance of the department.
This isn't for the staff to comment other than the city manager.
Well,
So
this is the department that ran the finances, was contracted, and the members of the council were well informed, including the members of the council when we went back later and found that we really were unhappy with the car, and we demanded a huge refund from their services.
So we're just gonna excuse all audits while they remain to.
We're not excusing the audit, we're saying that if people are talking about internal controls versus missing money, those are two different things. What I'm showing is that there's no evidence whatsoever of malappropriation or missing funds. What they're going to claim is that there was not the right control, and I absolutely agree, which is why we asked for a refund. They were not doing the reconciliation in a timely manner. They were doing it months afterwards, which is not the way we expected to do it.
So what I'm
But that
hearing is that
comes
we're
in-
not getting back perfect audits, so we shouldn't expect.
I don't-
perfect audits.
I don't know what you mean by a perfect audit.
There's no such
I don't
thing
think
as
it's-
perfect.
That's not what audits do. Audits aren't like, oh, look, isn't everything rosy? Audits are, hey, this is what you have, these are the numbers, here are any, missteps or mistakes in the numbers. And at the end of the day, here are things that we think you could do better.
Well,
An
what I,
audit's like a report card.
I
It's
get
how
how
you-
audits work. Thank you, Mr. Dodd. I get that. I've worked for cities and I've had audits, actually. What I hear is the citizens asking for the audit for the last
And we
year.
provided
But
it.
yeah, you're the
Now
one
they're
delaying it,
providing
you're the
a
one wanting to
draft.
postpone it more.
This
because
is
we're
a
trying
draft. This is
Right.
not an audit, it's a draft.
Of the audit.
I presume this is the audit. I don't know. There's literally no letterhead,
So,
there's
wait.
nothing came from
Okay.
the auditors to the council.
So are you saying, if it just went the other way, because this is what I'm understanding, Dan could have just sent it off and said, yeah, the draft looks good, and then they file with the Secretary of State, and then you're happy with that?
But it would have happened in August or September, and
Yeah, but
he's
we're
trying
not-
to get ahead of a
We're not
recall.
arguing about that right now. We're
No,
talking about getting actually.
This has nothing to do with the recall. This is about getting the audit done that we've been trying to get done.
Please don't raise your voice.
This has absolutely nothing to do with the audit. We are not trying to cover anyone's tracks.
Okay, but please calm down.
Get a hold of yourself, woman.
Okay.
Order, please, to the room.
Yes,
All right.
Madam Mayor.
This is how council works. We get to converse with each other about what we have, see, or what problems we have, and that's what we're doing, without the input of the city staff.
And one of my concerns about it is because, and I'm sure there were good reasons, I kind of see that why they changed the internal, the IRC or ICR, Internal Control Fund. They moved it from the business funds to the general fund. And I don't know what implications that has in how we're now comparing with 20 to 21, because that big change happened. And I haven't quite, I've been over the whole thing twice, and I haven't quite figured it all out. I would kind of like a reconciliation from them. And also, because it shows budgets that were, where we're budgeted more spending than income. We don't do that. So is that part of how that happens? I don't understand that.
So if you'll remember, at that time, we used a system where we were doing internal cost recovery from each department.
Right.
That provided, in my opinion, and when I brought it to the council, the council and the budget committee agreed at that time, it provided skewed analysis of how funding was provided to each different department by doing cost recovery. Instead, we then transitioned to a direct funding model where instead of everyone working for one department and departments paying in a portion, whoever had money paid. Instead, the department hires the personnel themselves. So the water plant operator now no longer works for Public Works, they work for the water fund. The wastewater plant operator no longer works for the for Public Works, they work for the wastewater fund. By doing that, we were able to move to a more acceptable model. What you're seeing in this budget is kind of that messy transition where, and they talk about that in the audit, where we go from a different type of fund to the government funds. And because of that, you see a little of this and a little of the other. In the next budget, we see the same reconciliation in the what we call the Gang of Six, which is the funds in the general fund, where we don't have a tourism fund, we don't have a community center fund, and we don't have a, there was a third one I can never remember the name of. We created a community and economic development fund where all of which are bundled. In that same fund, you'll see deficiencies in those, so we expect these in the next audit, where you'll see deficiencies in 3 departments and a surplus in 1. That's because we took 3 of them and eliminated them and combined them into 1. That's the same thing you're seeing in this. The reason, again, why we brought the draft of the audit is simply because we wanted the council to be able to say, I would like greater clarity on this issue and to be able to provide that feedback to the auditors so that the auditors can put that in their final audit and present that to the council when they present the final audit.
And I remember we also changed the method, so it wasn't a bunch of, them keeping hours all, all the time. So we did something to make that a lot.
Yeah, we
less
eliminated about 45 minutes per employee in the record keeping every day. I mean, that's a significant amount of labor that's, that goes to doing things.
But I think that everybody probably would like to see a list of what they think that we need to do better, even though this was 4 years ago.
Absolutely, and there's, I want to be really clear, when I say that I think that there is not a lot of point in rehashing what happened 4 years ago with the COG,
That's true.
I don't think it's worth going back to the COG and demanding that they explain why their internal controls were not sufficient.
No,
That's their own issue.
yeah, no.
I think what we have to focus on are the comments that the auditors make about the things that we have control of. In the same fashion, in the next year, in the next audit, we had Eisler CPA, which is an accounting firm out of Eugene, running our finances for most of that year. I expect that we will see similar comments about internal controls. That's one accounting firm, commenting on how another accounting firm handles that portion of the internal control. I think it's very important that what we focus on are what the city does and how the city handled that, and then more importantly, how the city adapted to not having those pieces and the steps that we took, including hiring an external third party to do bank reconciliation, so that we can bring and show that we have brought those internal controls under our house and are taking care of them.
Exactly.
And again, and I'm really trying to emphasize this because this seems to be the big point of confusion. The mayor has made the point several times that they didn't get this from the auditor. This normally would not come to anybody but the city manager and the city finance manager. This would not be emailed out to the council. This would happen, we would review it internally, and then we would provide that feedback to the auditor. And the council would then get emailed directly from the auditor, the final audit report. We are trying to add some transparency ahead of that because of some of the accusations that have been made that there is misappropriation and that there are missing funds. We are trying to show that that is not what the audit showed. The audit showed that we had a relatively, frankly, boring COVID year without a lot of, grandstanding one way or the other, but that absolutely we could do stuff better. That's what I expect every audit to show. If I start getting an audit that shows that we're doing everything perfectly down the line, I'll say that probably we're not getting a very good audit. Because if you look at anything closely enough, you're going to find ways that you can improve.
I agree. And it's also my understanding that if there is significant findings, you do bring it to the council.
When the audit is complete, that is exactly what happens. They bring that to the council.
No, even drafts only get brought to council when there are significant findings, which is why we have it in front of us now. But we don't know what the significant findings are, or we're just hearing from Dan what they are.
Again, Madam Mayor, that is absolutely incorrect.
I was advised that if I find this meeting unethical, I am facilitating this meeting.
Again,
I am saying that I feel that it is unethical for us to be getting a packet of a draft with findings not directly. Please, order. Please. I am stating that I find this unethical, and I am told by the Workers' Ethics Commission that I am the facilitator of this meeting. And if I find that I'm facilitating an unethical meeting, because my reasons are, I had less than 72 hours to review this report. I didn't hear it directly from the auditor, and I don't believe it's a complete packet, and I don't have a letter from the auditor telling us this is even a complete packet. So I am told that if I find the meeting is an unethical finding, or believe it to be, then I'm to object and I'm supposed to leave this meeting.
Cool.
So that is what I'm doing. I'm not storming out. I'm not angry. I'm not even mad about any of this. I just think this could have been presented in a better way so that our constituents would have felt more trust and more belief in what is happening at this table, other than what I feel is very performative and is being done for only because of a recall reason and has nothing to do with actual numbers of the audit. Thank you for your opinion.
You're supposed to be here for
Order, I am
You are
here.
supposed to be
Quiet,
here for us,
please.
not the other way around.
Quiet,
And
please.
you're walking out,
Okay.
so walk
Do you
your
want
ass
to
out.
adjourn the meeting? I can adjourn.
No, I'm sure you can.
Okay, I am more going to adjourn the meeting. I'm not going to walk out because this crowd seems to think that they are counselors and think that they're in their right.
At this time, I believe the council's going to override the mayor's decision. Can I get a motion, a second, to override the mayor's decision to adjourn the meeting?
But I still object, so please put it on the record.
So the meeting is still continuing. So does anyone have any questions?
Rita has something to say, and she's been around a while.
Okay, Ariel.
I think people can hear me from here. I would just like to clarify for the record that in the 31 years that I've worked for the city, this is the first time that a draft audit has been issued to the council.
Thank you, Rita. And I understand what you're saying, Dan, and I understand it completely, that this normally doesn't come to us. You're doing it as a transparency so that people can get online and see the numbers. And it's a lot of numbers. I mean, I spent 2 hours looking through this last night.
Can we pause real quick?
Yes.
You made a motion to,
Yeah, and then Jerry seconded.
Jerry seconded it?
Yes.
And
Aye.
Except one.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? Alright, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Do you guys have any questions about?
I have
this
one question
draft?
about what is wanting, why this is here. I'm reading your recommendation is to accept the audit from the auditors would be appropriate. Can you define accept?
Accepting the draft so that the appropriate motion is to either give me information that you want added to this audit so that I can send that feedback back to the auditors. I already have a stack of feedback that I'm sending back that we want clarity. But my question of you is to either accept the draft that you've been given, and therefore they'll refine it based on my feedback, or if you have feedback that you would like, as Sue was mentioning, to provide me that feedback so then I can get that back to the auditors in a letter so that they can complete the audit, write their findings and their letter of opinion, and submit that to the Secretary of State.
So then it's perfectly appropriate. I mean, it seems like if they don't give us the list of whatever they think that we should approve until it's gone to the Secretary of State. I mean, not that we're gonna change anything.
Because those are things that are retroactive. You
Yeah.
can't go back and say, oh, by the way, their letter of finding is going to say, and I'll tell you right now what it says. There are 2 pieces. They say that we don't do reconciliation quickly enough. Guess what? Absolutely, that was one of the big arguments we had with the COG. We have since solved that problem, in my opinion, and that we don't handle we don't track capital assets accurately. Now, when they say that, they're not talking about money. They're talking about buildings, that we're not fully depreciating the buildings in a way that meets I can't remember the name of the accounting standard, but that we are not. And the reality is that most of our capital assets until 2020 were over the depreciation period anyways, so it's relatively moot. But it's absolutely something I recognize. We used the same tool that was built, that tool was built in a database software package. That tool was used for the last decade by our accountant. Our accountant had left by that point. We had she had some memory loss issues. So we were not able to get a lot of information on how better to use that tool. We have subsequently rebuilt how we do capital assets, which will be reflected in the 2005 or 25-26 audit. But that's a totally different audit in a totally different time frame. So when I say I don't want to be dismissive, I don't think it's appropriate to go back and attack the COG. Again, we already went through that. All of you on council who were there at the time know that we had a pretty firm discussion with the COG, and we got a significant refund from them in terms of a settlement prior to filing the lawsuit. Along those same lines, I think that yes, we should have been able to do the capital assets better, but I think we now do the capital assets better, and that will be reflected later in our response to the findings. Our response to the findings, which we're required to do by the state, will simply say, this was a third-party company that was doing it. We agree that it's not done correctly. Here's how we're doing it now. That's the same response we'll have. Next year, we'll have a different finding, and it will be against how Eisler did it, and we'll have to say the same thing. It's like, well, Eisler did it that way. They're an accounting firm. We had to trust the contract with them, but here's how we do it now. This is not passing the buck, in my opinion. This is not passing the buck. This is just simply saying, here were the people who were responsible for it at that time, and here's how we're doing it now, and we think that we're doing it correctly. If the 2026 audit comes out and they say, hey, your internal controls are not great because of this, that's fantastic, because it means there's a way for us to improve something, because that's always the goal here, is you want to be able to do it better. I think we're doing it right now, but that doesn't mean we are, but we're certainly working towards getting the audits that will tell us that. Again, when we produce this for you today, It's not just performative theater in which the mayor is claiming. This was not performative theater. This was to give an honest ability for you to look at the audit and say, hey, we have been accused that money is missing. We've been accused of misappropriation. We've been accused of not tracking where all this funding is going. That is not what this audit shows. This audit shows pretty relatively boring. Now, I will also say that most of the grant funding came the year after this audit and the following years. I will also point out that most of the grant funding wasn't just handed to the city. Most of these grants that we operate on are grants that we go out, we have to use city reserves to do the work, and then we have to submit reimbursement requests, which is what we're doing right now on the last of the sidewalk project. That is how most of that funding gets spent, and then we get it. And the state has audited everything we send them. So there's not really a possibility for money to just walk out the door. That's not how this works. We don't just, the only tranche of money I think that we got in just one big fell swoop was the ARPA funds during COVID, where they just sent you out huge money. And I can tell you where every cent of the ARPA money is. You can look right across the street, it's that big green building down there. So, at the end of the day, this was not performative. This was really to provide the citizens and yourselves better information prior to you having to wait and have people screaming at the top of their lungs about delayed audits. You have the audit. This is the draft. This is what they sent us. I put the watermark draft on it so that people wouldn't think it's the final audit. And all we're asking is, let me know if you want to know anything more, and I'll send it back to the auditor. Otherwise, normally what would happen is you wouldn't see it, and she should know this pretty well. Normally, you wouldn't see this at all. Your board wouldn't see this until you get the audit. Rick's on the COG board. You don't see the COG audit until they present it to the board.
Right.
Normally, I would present you the final audit after all was said and done. And if you have questions, you could ask the auditor what keep the change. This, you could actually ask for addition. And I have to emphasize, when you say change, it's not changing the numbers. It's asking for an explanation about something. I don't want to see a single word redacted from this or removed from this audit. I would like to see additional information and potentially a correct page number on some directions. But I don't expect them to remove anything. I expect them to provide clarity. Audits are written for accountants. I think audits need to be readable by a common person. And that's the only feedback I'm really providing the auditors. Explain when you say this.
So I think there was some suggestion in here about how, about the pensions and some corrections or some different, a little different way of doing things. And since we just got it, I'm sure we probably haven't done that, maybe we have.
I think, when we get the final audit, we'll go through, and I guarantee you, because it's required by law, we will put together a list of everything they recommend, and we will bring it to you and say, this is our plan, this is our response to the Secretary of State, and this is how we plan to do things.
I think that's exactly what we would like to see.
Yeah. The pensions in particular are tough.
Yes, they are.
Because we are one of the few, we do not join the common pool.
Right.
This was a decision made by a council almost a decade and a half ago. I remember you and I sitting and making that decision. I would say that if you look at the pension numbers and responsibilities from other municipalities who did join that pool, and they're paying 30, 40, and 50% PERS rates, that we made a very wise choice.
Yes.
I think we have a very healthy pension, and we also have a lot of young employees. So we don't have a lot of tier 1 people. We don't have a lot of tier 2 people. There are a few, but most of them have retired, so we're already seeing that pension burden on us. I'm looking at you.
Yeah.
So the deficiencies, we'll see that at the final, we see that and the responses, all that?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. So again, the concept that this is your shot to approve, no, this is not. This is your shot to say, we're comfortable with this draft, or hey, we want more explanation on this. The final still comes right back to you because it's certified, they give you the letter of finding. I'm gonna ask for a lot more explanation in the letter of finding because I do think that they owe it so that when somebody reads it and it says significant, they understand what is meant by the word significant. Is it significant, or is just that the accounting term to say, well, it's bigger than $5? And does it mean that something's wrong, or does it mean, well, you really should do it this way instead?
So is there a reason then to even vote on the draft? Since it normally doesn't even.
There is technically no reason to vote on it. You know, absolutely not. I just put it in there because normally when you bring something to everybody's attention, I'd love to say, well, the council said it was fine, so let's go for it. It's by consensus, or if you have more information, I would love to ask them so that you get the best audit you can for the citizens.
Well, back to my question. If you want me to accept this audit, I can't because I don't have enough information. So
I don't,
I like what Sue said.
Yeah.
We don't do anything.
yeah, that's totally fine.
Except to raise any
Any questions
questions
that
that
we
we have.
I
We
would
want
love,
explanations.
I would love to get back to the auditor. The auditor wants to finish this audit.
Yes.
The auditor said that if we had absolutely no questions, they were really just,
Send it off.
send it off and be done. I think that folks deserve a little bit more information. I think that when it says, look at page 60 or something, it should actually be something on page 60 of what they're talking about. I have some questions about some of the things that they've said, and all I want is just like, hey, give me another paragraph that explains what you mean by that. I understand it, but I want somebody reading the audit not to look at it and say, oh my God, that's the end of the world. Okay, capital assets, information, without a depreciation. It could be off by this or it could be off by this. What does that really mean? Does that mean your house is off because you haven't kept the correct depreciation on it? No, it just means that your house could be worth $450,000 or it could be worth $350,000. They need to say that so that people don't think, oh my God, something's wrong. That people can decide that maybe something's wrong, but people need to be able to make up their own minds.
So you brought up yours, Sue, that you wanted clarification,
Well, yeah,
and then page 60. And then
right, page 60, and I guess,
So Sue, to be specific, you would like clarification on?
well, first of all, why did they change that? And how does it skew the comparison with 20? That's the most important.
Okay, so I'll ask how the why is because we did it.
Okay, all right.
But the how it changes, it skews, I'll ask.
Because it feels like it's not apples to apples anymore. It's like apples to oranges. And I think it's important to be able to make that. I mean, they make the comparison, but if it's not apples to apples, then
not clear.
Yep,
it's not clear.
I will ask for an explanation.
Maybe a reconciliation or something between
Yeah.
what they show and what the effect of changing the ICR into there has had.
I think they provide it, but it's confusing.
Yeah.
So I'll ask them to clarify.
And then you got page 60.
Yep.
And page 60.
Because that one's, that's at the end where it says, oh, everything's fine except for these things. Go to page 60 and look for them. Go to page 60 and it talks about your pension.
Yeah.
I'm like, that doesn't have anything to do with the general fund.
We're not voting on this, we're just okay with him going back and submitting these things?
Yep.
You want consensus or do you need anything?
I don't really need it.
Right.
So we moved around a little bit, so we went down to 7D, right?
So we could
So
go
you're back
with
at
that.
4.
Yeah, you're back at 4.
Presentation of the natural hazard mitigation plan.
Hi, Jaime.
So Jaime's trying to be polite. We have a very long presentation for you. This was instigated at the request directly of the mayor.
It's now gone.
This process is done. This entire process has been adopted by, 5 of 7 communities, 6 of 7 communities?
21 of 22.
21 of 22.
Yeah.
This process is in the counties, it's not the cities. And importantly, it's already started the next version up. This is a 5-year process, it takes 5 years. We participated through this process. Correct me if I'm mistaken. And it's already starting again with the next round. There are multiple public hearings that happen during this process.
Where are those announced at?
So the county, this is the county's document.
All right, so the county prepared the document. It was funded by FEMA and the Oregon Emergency Management, Office of Emergency Management. And I'll give credit to OSU, you see the lower right-hand corner. They did.
Not as you. Not as you.
I'm sorry. Don't be merciful. So anyway, they prepared the document. It did not cost the city anything other than staff time. The document is 100% the county's, and we are an appendix of that document. We are one of 22 jurisdictions that had an appendix to the document. As of right now, actually as of December, 21 of the jurisdictions had adopted it. We were the only ones that did not. So all public meetings, et cetera, were through the county, were on the website, were announced in the papers. We brought it to the council back in November, along with the draft of the document, et cetera. It has been announced on our website along with links to the document, the county document, and our documents for a couple of weeks now. Our draft documents and everybody else's draft document have been on the county sheriff's website, who's their emergency management, since October of last year.
The question you would like to know is, do you want us to go through all 65 slides?
Not quite, but it's 45 slides, explaining exactly what the document is, why it's important, gives an example of a few things, or you can adopt it.
I'll just ask this question, since we should. What is the natural hazard mitigation plan for? Specifically. Really really condensed version of it, like.
Sure.
Like
So
that.
the natural hazard mitigation plan identifies natural hazards that could impact the city. So we're talking earthquakes, tsunamis, we're talking big storms, erosion, landslides, whatever you can, along those lines. And it's a list of hazards that the county actually produces, and then we as a jurisdiction within the county can agree with those or add some of our own. And so there's a little bit of back and forth. Once you've identified what the hazards are, the group that puts the document together identifies what the impacts are from those hazards. And then we, the city, come up with a list of mitigation or items that we can do to lessen those impacts. And so typically we come up with a list of projects or a list of processes or something that we can do to help lessen the impact. So for instance, for a tsunami, physically we can't do much, but we can sure educate the public and tell them where the escape routes are and put maps up, have brochures at the City Hall, which we do have. For something like an earthquake, we can upgrade all of our infrastructure, like our water tanks and some of the other facilities, so that it can withstand some of those things. And we actually got grant money to get some, make some improvements at the water plant. And we actually crossed some of the items off in the last mitigation plan. But the reason you have it is, if you have a plan that identifies what it is, what the response is, you can then ask for grants that specifically address those items. And most importantly, in the situation where there are emergency money is available, FEMA every once in a while will put out a grant that says, oh, okay, this is for items that you have identified that you need in case of an emergency. Well, if we don't have a plan, we don't qualify for those monies. It's a fishing license, if you will.
Thanks.
That was 45 stuff.
I do have one question, this has nothing to do with anything, but why does it say on this one, where it says volume 3, 20, it lists all of them, like you're saying, why did number 3 say all?
Which slide?
I don't know what number.
There's no page
There's no
number
page
on
numbers.
these, so-
Volume 3, it's deep down in there. It's closer to the hazards.
Oh.
Yeah, all the hazards you were saying.
Well, I think that means like this has it all, so like it would apply to all the different parts, like if it's synonymous.
Yeah, that's
with
it.
different-
Yeah,
Yeah.
it applies to all the
That makes
hazards.
sense.
That's a step that you would do, if anything.
I can read a spreadsheet.
Great, that was my only question.
It's really important to know, and we're gonna talk about the same explanation when we talk about the drinking water protection program, which will come up here later. It's really important to note that these often have public charrettes, public meetings outside of the project itself. Most of these plans, I have 4 things that you do, consultant reports, drive me nuts, because you do them and then you put them on a shelf.
Yeah.
It used to drive me nuts when sitting in your seat, I would get another consultant report that we had paid $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 for, and think, oh my God, why are we doing this? Sitting in this seat now, and Heidi can say the same thing, we know why those reports are important. Because when we went out to get the park grant, it was those charrettes, those meetings, that park plan that we put together, not 15 years ago, that was critical to show that we said we want to develop this park. And then we asked for money to develop the park. They said, oh, well, they identified it, and now they're doing it. That is true on so many things. So, you know, this natural hazard mitigation plan, when we go for money for an emergency road for Walport Heights, or for fire protection, or for tsunami signs, these important things that we asked for, we point to this document that the county does. The nice thing is the county does it all. You know, the county has, it costs a lot of money for the county to do this, you know. County does it all. We point to this document and we say, hey, it's identified as important in this document, and then we can get funding.
So are there ever regular reviews and updates or progress?
Every 5 years,
reports?
every 5 years.
Only that.
Yeah,
So not in between.
well, this document takes 5 years to develop. That's, when I say it started again, I'm not joking.
Yeah.
They have started the
Right.
beginning meetings of recreating this entire document again.
But we sit down, everything we did as far as, you know, chasing grants or whatever, the very first question on a grant application is
it the plan?
Well, yeah. Have you identified this as a need? Well, yeah. And on purpose, everything that's in this document is also in the transportation master plan. It's also the sewer master plan. It's also the tsunami evacuation plan. It's also in the, I think you get them all, the comprehensive plan. So it's in basically every document we have. So there's nothing new. We didn't invent anything new in here. These are also fairly vague. Like, you know, it'll say, oh yeah, we need to increase our water storage. Well, what does that mean? So we can, you know, apply for different things and come up with different projects that better meet the needs. The one difference that we did do this, what the county did was they rehashed all the old projects and just resurrected everything. We actually sat down, so me, Dan, and Mike at Public Works sat down and said, where are we spending all our time and our money? And that happened to be right after the big ice storms, the big winter storms, where Mike and all his guys were running up and down the hill, fueling the pump stations and keeping everything maintained. And they're like, well, we could use some of that. So we took some of those funds and identified actually all the lift stations, all the sewer stations, all the critical facilities, all the buildings, city hall, whatever else, and said, generators that work. We need to be able to fuel them, so how about we carry a larger fuel tank in the back of the trucks instead of what we had? You know, so instead of having to refuel a generator with 3 trips of a pickup truck up and down, they could do it in 1 trip, and then they could go somewhere else. So those are the new things that were added to this report that weren't in the previous report, and we can already scratch off half of those because we've already accomplished it. We're in the process of accomplishing it.
So I assume when you sit down to create the budget, I mean, we've got all those plans with all those things in them that need to be improved. I mean, is that just like in your head that you could write down?
It is a fundamental part of the budget creation. I mean, that's the important thing. Is we have a transportation system plan that we approved in 2021 or 2020. We've got the water master plan that we approved. We've got the wastewater master plan that we approved. These are documents that are this thick.
Right.
All of these, and we just talked today about how we're about to have to go back and redo the wastewater master plan at a 10-year update. we'll probably update all of these plans, or seek funding to update all of these plans for 2030. Because we'll be halfway through, these plans are all designed for a 20-year period. So you have to update them every 20 years formally. That's a huge job, it takes several years. We're updating them halfway through right now, with the intention of, we've checked off a lot of boxes.
Right.
The wastewater master plan, we checked off several significant things. You know, and some of those we fund ahead. So I'm going to use Mr. Swift's example, the Corona Court. You know, we got asked to annex somebody in. We provided sewer to that area. It cost the sewer reserve fund X amount of dollars. However, we expect within, and we're already seeing that demand, we expect within a very short period of time, that reserve fund will get its paid back by people annexing in, and more importantly, paying the SDC fees to come back in. So it will refill that amount. That's the only way you can grow. You know, the only way that cities grow are by growth or by external funds. We have not grown a lot. I don't know if you saw, but there was just a report out that said that Lincoln County shrunk for the first time. This city has stayed relatively stagnant in the scheme of things for, I mean, I think I said this last meeting, or at the budget meeting, my daughter was born in 2024, or 2004. At that time, there was 2,050 people on the sign coming in the Walport. My daughter's just about to turn 22. There's 2,350 people on the sign in Walport. That's where we're at. We've grown 300 people in 27 years. Every time we do these plans, by the way, the prediction is that we're always going to double. So every time it's like, oh, we've got to do this. The master plan is like, we have to totally rebuild the sewer plant because it'll be at capacity. No, it's not. It's not even close.
I mean, I guess from the council point of view, we want to know that those things that are in the plans are being paid attention to.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I
There's
think,
not an easy way to know that, I understand.
Yeah, I
Because it's
think-
not a master list of 150
well,
projects.
we do. So we do have in the executive summary, we try to have the executive summaries online, and it talks about all the different things. And every time at the budget season, what I say is always that when I'm working on something in water, wastewater, or streets, it's always in that list. Everything that we do, our goals for all the utilities are in those lists.
Well, and the choice is, if there's grant money out there, then
Yep.
obviously you can
In the
do it.
past, what we used to do,
Yeah,
in the past, what we used to do is we used to highlight and organize by priority.
yes, right.
And the problem, and I believe, you know, fairly, one of the reasons that we got stuck is we would spend so much time worrying about priority 1 and priority 2 that when money came available for priority 7, we weren't anywhere there. We take a different approach under me. We take a different approach is, I know what all 20 of them are, and the minute I see funding for any of them, I go for it. You know, so for example, this year we're applying for funding for a different park program. It's not in our top 5 priorities, but it's on our priority list of things that we'd like to do. If I see an opportunity to get one of the other priorities, I'll go for the money. You know, when we get paid for the fire station, we have a big priority. We just talked to a developer who feels like he can't really develop because of the water situation. Our priority there has always been that water pipe from the top of the hill down to Merton. That will be huge for fire flow. It'll be huge for potential development on the east side of town. But one of the things that we don't talk about is the pressure pump. That's like priority 25. But we just talked to somebody, and I'll talk about this at the end about meters, but we just talked to somebody who can replace those pressure pumps. That's actually really important because maintaining the pressure pumps across the system is how you ensure that there's fire flow in each of the different locations. And that'll be critical. So yeah, we're gonna jump down and try to do 25 this next year. Why? Because we need to do it in the next 20 years anyways, or next 14 years now. But it's something that you now feel it has risen in priority. It was not a priority in 2020, but it's a priority now.
So to quickly answer your question, The last 5 or 6 slides actually has all of our action items. So those are the punchline, if you will, of the presentation. And basically it lists, I believe we had 11 total. And it lists what we're gonna do under each one of those action items. So for instance, under earth movement, number 2, it says mitigate the risk of earth movement, including erosion and slow landslides along Crestline Drive, identifying and analyzing high-risk areas, implementing effective erosion and stormwater control measures for construction, promoting responsible land use that preserves natural contours and vegetations, and there's got another sentence after that, but that's says, yeah, we're gonna look at Crestline, but it doesn't say we're gonna turn Crestline into this, we're gonna do this, and do whatever. It leaves it up to us to figure out how best to address that issue. And how best to address that issue has already been addressed in the transportation master plan, so we refer to that. It's the same thing with critical infrastructure. We refer to the master plan for water and the sewer because they've already identified dollar amounts, specific projects, and more technical data than this business.
So we have 11 priorities by this.
Which is 3 less than the county.
Because we finished some things.
Because we crossed them off the list, yeah. And we didn't think that some of the things that they had on there were relative or related to us.
I move to approve the resolution.
I'm second.
And that's resolution 1366. We got a motion, can I get a second?
Jamie did.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution 1366 is approved.
One Scrivener error here. It should be 36, not 66. I apologize.
13, what?
36.
36.
Because the next one's 1337, which means that somewhere.
With the correction, resolution 1336 is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would encourage any citizen who is interested in this process whatsoever. The county is holding their meetings and is moving forward with the next round of the natural hazard mitigation plan. If they want their voices heard and want to affect the plan, the county is the party that is moving it forward.
So the next one says public hearing ordinance, none, so we have nothing there? Is that what-
Not at this time.
Okay. All right, number 6, discussion and actions on business having previously been before the council, old business.
We did it.
Here we go.
Sorry, I
Okay.
jumped the gun.
So we're going to the containers, the cargo containers. This is what we talked about last meeting, correct?
Yeah, if I might make a suggestion, and if it's acceptable to the council, I would like to recommend that we move 7B up. We have a representative from the Doll organization here for a presentation, and he has been really, really patient. We have a lot of stuff to get through yet.
So we'll move 7B up and then we'll come back to
6B.
6B.
Yes.
So we're ready for you, Doll.
There you go.
All right, thank you, folks. I'm Dave Larmuth. I'm the admin manager now, also a community relations manager for the Doll Family Company. We have for your a slide version of the annual rate review report. As you may recall, this our financial review was provided in 2 parts this year. We'll break that down a little bit as we go through there. Oh, we missed the first slide right there. So that's one of our trucks. You might recognize them. We use the same trucks to pick up the 3 different streams of material we collect curbside. They all are what's called automated side loaders, which means that yellow arm comes up, grabs the cart, dumps it over the top. There's a hydraulic ram inside that smashes the garbage back or the other material back so we can fit more in there. And we have 8 trucks and 6 routes on most days. So we find that right balance between having enough trucks and enough drivers and being able to get all the work done. And that's a Dropbox truck. This will be full of jokes. So it's called a Dropbox truck because you use it to drop off boxes, and the boxes are called drop boxes because you drop them off. So it's got a big chain hook on it. It drags that box up onto the back of the truck, and drives it away. And that's what we're here to talk about in the agenda. So next slide, please. Right. So you may recall the Juno project was very exciting that GP had for a few years. They were processing mixed solid waste and extracting organic material and fiber and metal, in particular, out of the mixed garbage. They decided to press pause on that program. It was a pilot project. From their perspective, it's a good thing. They proved that this concept works. At scale, it's possible that you could have it if you have a large community that generates enough of the right kinds of waste. It could be one part of a system. Couldn't handle everything because, for example, we couldn't take construction and demolition waste into the Juno facility. It's not really built. There's not the organic or fiber material that they were really after in that, and it would probably break their giant centrifuges if we start throwing lumber in there. So we were already bringing some material to Coffin Butte landfill. The public self-haul and the construction dry waste boxes were already going there. The good news is we had a relationship with them and a contract already. But that is why we had an increase of just over 15,000 tons brought down to Coffin Butte in 2025. And you see there the numbers for our other materials, just over 2,000 tons for mixed compostables. Scrap metal, another 2,200 tons, and 1,300 tons of commingled recyclables. 175 is for everything else we take: batteries, motor oil, fluorescent light tubes, electronics. I'm sure I'm forgetting something, but that's what that is. Next slide is the recycling expansion. So it started in the middle of the year last year. We've been ramping up to this for a few years. It went live on July 1st. Most of the front page news related to this act is happening in communities that didn't already have a curbside recycling program. We already have one. We're already collecting almost the entire list. So we're kind of at the back of the line for the improvements that will eventually come as well. The big news for us to add is food and beverage cartons, such as milk and juice and broth. And we have plastic tubs, cups, and buckets. We can go up to 5 gallons now. And we also take rigid plastic nursery pots and trays. You can hold it in your hand, touch the thumb to your finger, because it goes crinkle, crinkle. That's not the kind we want. If you can't do that, then it's probably one that we take. So part of the focus of this recycling expansion is increased emphasis on contamination reduction. Some of the studies that are coming out of the metro area show that contamination levels are upwards of 20%. Mixed recycling makes collective recycling a lot easier from us. If you remember the older days, you had that tote driver go up to the truck and it would have like 7 different containers. They put all the different things in all the different spots, and as soon as any one of those slots filled up, they had to go dump the truck, whether the rest was full or not. But the change to mixed recycling increased the chances that people would accidentally or unfortunately on purpose put materials that we don't want in there. These materials all go to a sorting facility. Ours usually go to the International Paper Facility over in Eugene. And they use a combination of people and magnets and amazing machines to try and sort all this stuff out again. And there's a few things that give them real problems. No bagged recyclables, kind of related to the whole no plastic bags thing. But we call it up for separate emphasis because it keeps selling in the stores clear trash bags that say they're for recycling, show they're recycling. And maybe in some programs, in some states, that's okay, but not in Oregon, not anywhere that I've lived. Do the people that actually have to deal with it? I'm sure it's great for customers, but for the people that sort the recycling, it's kind of. So no batteries. That's really a fire issue. We've been very lucky so far since I've been here. We haven't had a fire. Thompson's had a fire on their tip floor that they were able to spot right away and get taken care of before it spread. North Lincoln Sanitary had a truck catch on fire, and they were close enough to their transfer station. The fire engines met them at the transfer station. They dumped the load and they found it out. Again, batteries were the cause. Pride Disposal Service in Sherwood had a fire that would have burned down their entire multi-million-dollar transfer station building. It started up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and they just happened to have a driver coming through who's had an early route to run, drive a semi out, and he's, you hear that? So all of the alarms in the building were going off, but no one was there. So that they got lucky. We don't believe in luck so much, so we're doing everything we can to keep batteries out of the recycling. We can bring them for free all day, every day to either transfer station. They also don't like block foam or packing peanuts. We don't like them either. If you do have them and you don't want them, I understand. But if you bag them up, that helps us and, depending on which way the wind is blowing, the rest of your block. So bagging those up is the right choice. And the plastic bags, stretch plastics, we cover that. And what they call tanglers, hoses, cords, and wires. If you imagine, a recycling facility is full of a bunch of things that do this. And you do that enough times around an extension cord or something else, you're gonna spend a few hours after your shift cutting those all off of there with a leather, which is, of the unfun jobs in this industry, that is one of the least fun jobs. Hopping up with a box cutter, cutting off super gross plastic bags, or going in there with clippers trying to bust up wires or 100 hangers that got wrapped around something. Part of this, of these changes is a contamination fee that we're proposing to add to discourage repeated issues with the same customers. So this is sort of part of a, at work, at HR anyway, we call it a progressive discipline model. So it's really to get folks' attention. The first couple times we plan to just waive the fee. It's really to get them to call us, sort of like if you're suspended for non-payment. And the first time we don't pick up your card, if you've ignored our phone calls and emails and letters, people usually get the message of, oh, I should probably call and find out what's going on. So it's really an attention getter. What it does is create an intermediate penalty prior to the removal of the carts. So the idea at the state level is there's a lot of customers who lose their cart for contamination and never get it back. So you have to have a process for that. You have to have a process of escalation. So I think it's repeated and significant is how the language of the law is written for. So for us, it's going to be 5.
Okay.
But yes.
My other question is, how do you even know? If you're dumping the bins in, how do you know who did it?
So good question. So there are cameras on the trucks. There's so part of it is the drivers can see some things like a bag of trash, for example, looks a lot different than loose cardboard. But you can hear also if there's glass bottles, which is one of the a common contaminant. You can hear those glass bottles clinking, and your neighbors can probably hear it too. So bring your glass to the recycling center. Your neighbors will. So it's sort of a combination of those. You're right that once we eject the load out onto the tip floor, we're not going to be able to tell whose it is unless they throw away whatever it is and some junk mail from their house gets stuck to it. That does happen. Okay, next slide. Okay, projects and events. So we do a lot of things in our community. We support a lot of youth sports and nonprofit organizations. And we hosted Easter egg hunts, and we do Halloween and all these parades. So candy makes up a significant portion of our community's budget. The Amazon guy hates us. This parade season, they get these big old boxes delivered. Candy's heavy, and we'll order like 8 boxes. He does not. We also donate money to several organizations in addition to providing services. So, for example, for beachcombers, we're sending money, and we're providing free collection service for the event. When we do send money, all of that expense, also the money we spend on candy. So community support and donations are all subtracted out of the operating ratio calculations that we get to on the labor side. I'm in that green boogie suit. No one bothered to tell me I had it on backwards. So, excellent. Okay, so back on April 1st, we provided you with a reviewed financial statement. As you have covered in great deal already, there is a difference between an audit and a reviewed financial statement. A review basically is sort of a softer, quicker look. They don't drill deep down into all of the different numbers. They do some tests. They look at the numbers and say, are you handling money and numbers in a way that's consistent with the generally accepted, approved accounting principles, generally accepted. Very good. It's called GAAP.
Trying to remember that.
Yes. And then they change it sometimes, and we don't keep track of that as closely as our accountants do as well. So usually they will include in that letter anything weird that they found. If you find anything weird, that's good. They also make various declarations as a part of that. For example, we have intercompany transactions. Our collection service company, Dollar Disposal Service, is a separate company than the transfer station. So there's a lot of intercompany charges because the collection company brings garbage recycling to transfer station. So we have to disclose all of that as part of this process. Next slide, please. So you can see here on the, I have it right here. So these are the results specifically for the city of Walport. So the material that we pick up outside the city limits is part of the county. So even if they're across the street, your neighbor, they're on the county side, they're going to pay different rates. They have the same services, but they're going to pay a different rate than a city customer. And that's how it's all split out. So Yachats is separate from the county, is separate from Walport, is separate from Bayshore is part of the county. I made it very clear they're not part of the city. So in case there's any confusion over that. So we have revenue of $923,000. You can see the labor and disposal are together the two biggest expenses, and then the rest of our operations expenses, and that's the trucks, that's the fuel, that's the parts, tires, all of that is under the rest of operations, and we've got operations is purple, labor is green, disposal is blue, and admin is orange. I'm somewhere in that orange. So our net income for 2025 calendar year was a rate of return of 6.4%, $59,000. So then we use those numbers as a starting place for the next slide, where we do the projections. So based on our best estimates, what do we think it will cost us to provide these services in the upcoming rate year, which will be July 1st of this year through June 30th of next year. When we did our projections, we projected we would be inside the range called for the agreement. So we estimated the CPI at 2.25%. We'll get to what it actually was. That was our guess on May 1st. No, sorry, on the middle of March. our guess of what the number that is released on May 12th would be was 2.25. Spoiler, it was 2.4, so I was close. So similar numbers for and with the same breakdown, the rate of return would come in at just over 10%. That is, the operational expenses include franchise fees. Last year, you see up top there was $26,000 paid to the city. That's really to help cover the cost of the wear and tear that our big trucks do to your streets, picking up the garbage. And the projections include just over $12,000 as Waldport's share in the new Recycling Modernization Act rebates that are applied to disposal. So it gets a little complicated, but basically that big program owes us some money for recycling. We collect it on your behalf. When it arrives, the adult disposal service will get those as a credit against our disposal costs, and those are called out now separately on the cost of service model that we see. Next slide, please. So the operating ratio is the calculation that our agreement is written. It's a calculation that is allowable expenses divided by revenue. The allowable expenses, again, that's subtracting out things like community support and donations from the rest of the expenses. The range is 85 to 91%. The calculated operating ratio is 89.7%, and that's with the actual rate adjustment which is 85% of the CPI, which brings it to 2.40%. Without the adjustment, we would be at 91.5%, just outside the range. Next slide, please. So we wrote these back in March. So whatever uncertainty we had about fuel in the third week of March, we have more now. Who knows what's going to happen? And as you all know from your businesses, I'm sure when fuel prices get unpredictable, cost of other products and shipping those products gets volatile as well. Disposal, we've seen a substantial increase in the landfill disposal fees. That's step one of Coffin Butte's at least short-term plan. Increase their rates, cap some of their larger customers. So Marion County, for example, can't bring all of their garbage to Coffin Butte anymore. They are already having to send some of it to Eastern Oregon. So the combination of those will allow them to get the lifespan of the landfill to their targets, assuming they don't get their expansion approved. Insurance has been another big one. We mentioned the fires from batteries and facilities. That risk is high enough. There are enough incidents of these fires that insurance companies are starting to back away from the solid waste industry, because you burn up one of our garbage trucks, it's over $400,000. So it adds up in a hurry. Obviously, buildings are expensive, so replacement is expensive. So auto, liability, you name it. We also have to keep pace with our competitors for our drivers. CDL drivers are in high demand, so are mechanics and folks who are good on the phone, good paying the bills. So our pay and benefits increase as well. On the revenue side, we're seeing a slowdown in construction and demolition projects, less industrial activities, and tourism. You all probably have a better finger on the pulse on what's happening with tourists. All we know is the customers that are, some of our customers who are highly tourist-based are calling us less often this year than they did last year, and et cetera. So that's how we can gauge it. Next slide. So the rate impact, what does 2.40% look like? So for our most common rate, which is a 35-gallon trash cart, That's weekly and curbside. It also includes every other week 65-gallon cart or 95-gallon cart for recycling. And then every other week, 95-gallon cart for compostables. That's yard debris plus food waste. Current rate is $42.35. The proposed rate is $43.35. The increase is $1. That's unusual in my experience to have a nice even number, but it is, and it's important to note that if we get people to recycle more, whether it's from just the publicity surrounding the Recycle Modernization Act, the fact that we're taking in additional materials, that gets people to use their carts more. They may be able to change to a smaller cart or go to less frequent service. Not all companies have this many options, but we offer 3 different cart sizes. So 35, 65, 95-gallon carts. And 4 frequency levels. You can go weekly, every other week, once a month, or will call. There's a monthly rent associated with will call. Yes, ma'am.
On the compostables, I mean, our cart, we only do it every other week, but our cart compostables is much bigger.
Much bigger
than the garbage, you know, the normal. I assume the smaller ones are 35 gallon.
Yes.
So is there a smaller one?
Smaller than 35.
No, smaller than the,
Oh.
whatever size that compostable.
Right. So not currently, at least not generally available for you. But we can spray paint a leaf on just about anything. So not part of our standard package, no, but anything's possible. So we also offer walk-in service for an additional charge, and then that charge is waived for disabled customers that provide us either a doctor's note or a handicap placard. We're happy to walk in for those folks. And the last adjustment was last year at 5.32%, and the last picture is, I think, us at a parade. Maybe the Beachcomber parade, maybe a different parade, but we do. So that's everything. That's a lot. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to talk about it.
Do you have any questions?
What is the walk-in fee now?
Well, we'll have to look. I used to try to memorize things.
I have the 65 walk-in, I think I pay 110 a month.
I'm just looking for walk-in.
So you find the base fee, right, and then you add in the walk-in, and then we also have an additional fee if you have an enclosure. So if you build a little house for your garbage to live in, there's an additional fee if you want us to open the house and hold a little cart.
You can buy your own garbage.
Yeah.
You can.
Oh, you're sorry.
Oh, right, yeah. That little robot arm is good, but those Home Depot cans are kind of slippery. They kind of shoot.
Have they purchased more bare ones?
Well, I sure hope so. I haven't heard that we were out.
There was a shortage for a while, yeah. I think it was last year, there was a shortage, so like that.
I think that was true last year. I haven't heard that it's true now, but they like to keep things from
Not sure.
a little bit. Right? So I can look into that. I haven't heard that we currently have a wait list.
They've gotten worse.
Bears?
No.
The cars. Oh,
The bears are now able to open them a lot easier than they used to.
yes. Was it you that sent the video of the bear
Yes.
doing CPR on the cart? It's been very popular in industry functions.
Anyone have any questions? It's just a review, right? We don't got to approve it?
You do, actually. You need to move to accept the rate increase.
Right. What if we don't accept the raise?
No, just asking. I think I ask this every year. They don't pick up our trash anymore.
Don't really have a choice.
I know, I just wanna make sure everybody else knows.
I appreciate you making this interesting though, because it's garbage, nobody really wants to talk about it, but like, this was actually really interesting. Thank you.
Well, if you can't have fun at work, why?
Yeah.
So the only question I have is, when are you gonna get an electric truck?
Well, that's a great
The public-
question.
The public is showing them off all over the place.
Yes, did they show the price tag on them? The last one that I saw was 1.2 million.
Oh, yeah.
So they're cool. They've got that going for them. They're not great on hills.
And the battery catches on
And
fire.
the power, at least for the ones that, the folks that we've talked to, they can't run a whole route yet, at least not the routes that we're used to running. So if you make the route half as many stops, it can do the whole route. But they're expensive. I will be happy to buy one as soon as you tell me that I need to buy one. Until then, we're probably gonna wait till the price comes down. At some point, the industry may switch to hydrogen power or electric or whatever comes next. And there will be early adopters, and then the rest of us kind of watch and see. Once they've got all the bugs worked out, then we're happy to embrace them.
So the range again is, that you're allowed is what?
So for the operating ratio, it's 85 to 91.
91, and with this raise, it will be.
It'll be at roughly 89.
89.1.
89.1, okay. So it's within the range.
So Commissioner Susan, as to your question, so we have a contract. This operating ratio range is in the contract. And so if you didn't want to approve a rate increase, we would enter into a negotiation about what services, what other changes we make in order to drop our expenses back down to get us back into the range. We're not running a lot of optional programs now, so I don't know exactly what that would look like, but there is a process for that. It's a contract. It can be negotiated. We're happy to talk details anytime the city wants to make changes or talk about adding new things. We're happy to do that, but that is the process.
All right. Well, there's no more questions. Having met the code requirement, can I get a recommendation to accept the rate increase for, is it 2027? Fiscal year 2027.
I would accept.
So
I got one motion to accept. Second. And I got a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? You just got a raise.
yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Now we're back up to 6A, right?
6B.
Or 6B, that's right. Cargo containers. We talked about this last month, and then if I'm remembering, we had you go and kind of redo the plan. Is that what we?
What the agreement was, with some very stern looks, was that you would at least talk about it at this next meeting. If I brought back some basic language for.
So they weren't so visible. And...
Yeah, and basically some look and feel restrictions. I left it very vague. We are utilizing AI a lot more now. I want to say at the city, but really my office is using AI a lot more, simply to be able to get through some of the workload. And so this was drafted by one of our new AI services as an example that is consistent with Oregon state law. That's one of the really nice things is that I can now have it draft language that is consistent with Oregon law across the state, so that it provides an example that's not going to be challenged in court.
How do you check that they're correct?
So here's the beauty. Because of all the controversy around AI drafting legal things and them being wrong, they now all have a button that you can press that forces it to go through this another AI that checks the references actually exist. And that service actually has a guarantee associated, a financial guarantee associated with it. So that's rather nice because they're basically staking their company's reputation that they will not hallucinate and provide you false information.
So if I'm reading this right, everyone has to get a permit if they want one.
Yes.
So you kind of keep track of who has them.
What's the cost of a permit?
We don't have one right now.
It's just a way for us to keep track.
So it would be good that we gather in the ones that there are already with that.
Yes,
I mean,
everyone
maybe
would get a notice
Okay.
that if you have one, you must get it permitted. So we would know where they all, now, that said, we've done that with a lot of things. And people are not the greatest about actually, I mean, my neighbors have chickens and I know that they do not have a permit for them. You know, when they have a duck, I get a little annoyed, but other than that, generally I don't really care. But I know our code enforcement officer will likely get a call and they will be required to get a chicken. Or a permit. Thank you. Yeah, one more chicken.
And you can.
How many people, do you know roughly like what the number is right now of how many complaints are on?
I would say I did a rough count about a year ago, and we had, that I could see just driving around, about 42.
Out of how many houses do we have here?
1,500.
But those wouldn't have all been residential, right?
The one, I was
But you
looking
counted.
specifically for residential. I skipped the ones that were at businesses.
Okay.
I skipped the ones, I did count the ones that were at multiplexes that were annoying, simply because I thought they were, you know, something that we needed to focus on. But in general, I tried to count only the ones that I'm like, this would be a problem, this would be a problem, this would be a problem.
Some of us are old, we can't.
I was probably suffering from audit brain lag, that when I read through this proposal and all of it sounded reasonable and good, except I didn't understand one part. Again, probably because of the brain lag, like jet lag, almost about reading. There was language about if a neighbor, if your building is adjacent or on the side, there has to be a fence or vegetation to shield it. Does that apply to the street also? In other words, if I had one of those beside my house, not forward or behind, but directly alongside, I would need to have some sort of barrier between that and the street. And if I had a neighbor and there was no foliage and no fence, I'd need to put one on the side also. Is that?
The intention is that you have to have what's called site obscuring fence, and foliage can substitute for that.
Right.
You also have to have a setback from your neighbor's property, obviously.
Sure.
But you have to have some site obscuring. There is not language specifically that would obscure it from the front of the house. So, you know, if you had it parked right next to your garage as kind of a secondary toy garage, for example, you can see it from the street. Now, that's something that you could amend, that you needed to have site obscuring cover at all directions. That's, again, totally up to you.
It looks like 3 and 4
3 and 4, yeah.
that it has to be.
Shall be screened from view of public right of way.
And it says
Oh, okay,
public-
so I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Well, we could change it.
That's the way I read it too. But I wasn't sure.
But why would we want to change it? I guess that's the question before us. Why would we want to change it? That's the question before us.
Yeah, no, I've been.
Oh, I just
like
heard.
the biggest reason to change it is that the challenge that we have right now is there are just dozens of them that are really hard to do code enforcement of. We get complaints about them. And we can't really do enforcement because we can't guarantee that they're not grandfathered in. And so only in places where we have photo evidence or that we have some documentation, now we can start collecting that and really document where all of them are. But then it's just a challenge of going back and reviewing and coming back when we see a new one. It's not the new ones that are catching us off guard, it's the ones that look like they've been there for a decade, but it may have just not been seen for a year. So unless people are turning in their neighbors, it's really hard to catch the one that just pops up.
Oh, and I wasn't saying no change, I was just saying, why would we change what it says
Oh, yeah.
about screening it from the street?
Yeah.
It would be really hard to screen.
Yeah.
I mean, if I wanna drive my toy into my cart.
Yeah, we don't allow 6 foot
And
fences
you have
on the street side of it.
Well,
So
that
how
was
would you-
another question, height, because I don't even know how high
Those
a
things are
container
tall.
is.
They're tall.
So they're probably higher than a fence.
Yeah, so it's not gonna obscure the entire container, it's gonna obscure the container up to the maximum fence height.
Well, and on the street side, that's like 2.5 feet, 3 feet.
Right.
Well, it depends on the frontage.
Personally, I'd rather see a container than a half-syringe container.
It creates there are some challenges there, and that's kind of what we want to work through in the ordinance.
Well, and it talks about, someplace in here about, I'm thinking, because like boats and stuff are not supposed to be further out toward the street than the house front.
Yes.
Is that what we're also
It
considering?
would follow, ideally, it would follow that same guidance.
The ones that are
don't want-
grandfathered in, will they have to be
Yes,
broad
because-
code painted?
Because this would change where it is in the code, this is no longer a development code, this would be construction code.
Right.
We would give people a period of time in order to bring their containers into compliance.
What does our ordinance say right now? I'm sorry, I did not go find it.
You can't have them basically in a residential area in town with the exception of east of Krampus Key, and then south,
Okay,
in some limited areas.
so then people have just ignored it and gotten it anyways, is what you're saying?
Well, I think it says with the exception of a 30-day construction or moving,
Short term.
short term.
What has happened is that we have a company here locally who knows the ordinance and pays attention to it. Unfortunately, you can buy a container from a place in Eugene for just a little bit more money and they don't care, they just come in and drop it off. And what happens is people come and drop them off and nobody says anything about it for a couple of weeks, a month, 2 months, 3 months. And after they've been there 3 months and some stuff has grown up on them, we get told, hey, there's a container here. We go look. And unless Google Earth has shown us or somebody has shown us that there's not something there, it's very hard to determine whether there's a container there or not. One of the things that happens most commonly is older containers get replaced by somebody. And so they had a container, it got rusted out, they pull it out and they put in a new one. Technically, they can't do that. But we're stuck with a brand new container, usually a bigger container that we didn't know. Also, people do some yard work and all of a sudden you can see they have a container. You don't know whether it was new or not. You know, if they put it in and, you know, nobody called or said anything. It's very hard. We're seeing Google Earth has done a better job of doing the street view so that we can go down certain streets in town now and see history, but it's very limited and it's sometimes hard to see these things from the area. Not always. Sometimes it's really obvious, but sometimes it's really challenging.
So at this point, we don't have a map of the city showing where they are.
No.
Is that something the code officer would likely do?
If we implemented a change to this, that is something they would like to do. If we didn't implement anything at all, it would probably be something we did as part of the overall inventory to start keeping track of where they are.
Right.
And again, the challenge you get in there is it's very hard to enforce codes that affect one neighbor differently than another. So if you have a storage container and it's been sitting there for 15 years, and the guy buys the house next to you, and he wants to put in a storage container, it gets very difficult to enforce, well, you can't have one, well, he's got one, well, he's had it for 15 years, so it's okay. That becomes a very challenging argument.
So that's the issue.
That's
More
one of
than
the biggest
anything,
issues.
is it hard?
Now, we have several commercial properties that are upset that they don't have the opportunity to put them in the downtown area because they are commonly used in very secure ways to store equipment. I will tell you right now that Trip Daddy's has some that probably shouldn't have. The port is really desperate because ports usually use shipping containers for storage. There are a number of places that would like to have them. And given the the casual break-in we have especially during the summer months, it is the most secure. I mean, the city is using them right now on our playfields because it's the way that we can ensure that, when we lock those, they're pretty secure.
But the port and the city where we have them is a whole different thing than, right next door. I don't know.
Absolutely.
And especially if there's, we say they have to be screened, but then if, fences don't do it, or.
Then we're just fining and then fining and fining and fining until they
Well-
build the fence or take it away.
Well, no,
I don't know.
there would be the permit process would say that has to be part of it, so, but it's not perfect, that's for sure.
I know there's a lot of people on here that do not love the idea of this, but to me, I would rather look at a container than a pile of stuff in someone's yard.
Well, we have codes so that you piles of stuff in somebody's
Yes,
yard.
but that's, a lot of people that don't respond to those, like, this would give it a place to go.
And I think this is a happy medium. I mean, you covered a lot of stuff here, the screening, you can't live in them, the setbacks, you can't stack them on top of one another. I mean, we kind of covered all the bases to kind of.
The hope is that it does create that. It creates a enforcement mechanism. Right now, I will tell you, we are very handicapped in our enforcement mechanism. Because it is incumbent, we've got a new judge. Our first court date is in July. He was very specific. He's like, you need to prove to me that this is an offense. If you can't prove it, it doesn't happen. So we're gonna have to demonstrate, and about a few of the offenders will be able to prove it. It'll be obvious, it'll be easy, especially when they're like tractor tracks that lead right up to it, where it's clear it's just been dropped off. That'll be simple. But I'll tell you, I saw one the other day that it's in my neighborhood. I have passed that 100 times. It's the first time I noticed it, but I can't be certain that I haven't seen it that 100 times and just never registered. It doesn't look like there's stuff in front of it that looks like it's been growing for at least 10 years. So I'm really struggling with the idea that I just didn't notice it. Maybe they finally cut down a tree and it's been there the entire time. I wouldn't know what to do. And because we're a complaint-based enforcement, if you get one and your neighbors don't care, we're not gonna know until it's hard for us to go back and prove that it's new.
One thing that I don't see in here though is a size limitation, like can they have the massive ones or can they have the smaller ones?
And that's the type of thing that we'd love to get guidance.
Yeah.
We could say 20 foot's the limit, 30 foot's the limit, 40 foot's the limit. There are options. The 40-foot ones are really hard to move around. The 20-foot ones are pretty easy. The 10-foot ones I think are great. And then there is a question. The 10-foot ones technically fall within the state's allowance for small containers. I don't know that we can actually legally ban them.
Even if we move it to
Even
this
if we did this, the 10-foot containers are under the size allowed by the state for a shed. And the state allows it categorically across the board. It is an inherent property right. You can build a shed up to, is it 200 or 240 square feet?
200 for the shed?
Yeah.
That does not count for extension coverage?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just talking about that.
Yeah. 10 by 20 storage container would be the same.
Same as a shed. Yeah.
We can add in something like not to exceed this
Yeah.
size.
You could say, hey, you can have a storage container, it's gotta meet all these things. By the way, it's gotta be limited to 20 foot. It's gotta be limited to 30 foot. And you could have differentiation between residential and commercial.
That would be nice, yeah. As far as living in them, I've seen stuff, really creative stuff that people do and live in them.
So living in them should be differentiated between living in just a storage container where you're using it as an apartment, or somebody building a storage container house, which we actually have a storage container house.
And which I would be fine with that, but not just living in a storage container. So that's appropriate for this, I think.
My son's looking like, we can do it.
regardless of the materials used to the storage containers, it must meet the Oregon Building Code. So if you can build a house with storage containers, I'm still coming to look to make sure, or my inspectors will come to make sure that it is structurally sound, it meets all the codes that's in the book, that it has insulation, that it has water, electricity, all that kind of stuff.
I would hope a little more than that, but.
There's a lot. Yeah. I will say, storage containers are incredibly popular where building costs are incredibly high and storage containers are common. So Hawaii, I have several colleagues from Hatfield that built storage container homes in Hawaii for so much less than they were quoted just building a normal house. Here, we don't see it very often because it's just not as common.
So if we did separate residential out, what would this look like?
Well, what you would want to do is set residential differentiated in terms of the rules from commercial. So commercial could have a 40-foot container, whereas residential could have a 20. Commercial could have, wouldn't have to necessarily have the same screening as residential. Residential could be the full screening requirements. It could also be in kind of the look and appearance of it. Although I would suggest adopting the same look and appearance so that it's just easy across the board. What you want to do is you want to prevent the neighbor versus neighbor problem, which is what we have right now, where you have two of them side by side, and one of them's been there forever, so he's grandfathered in. One of them happens to be, or one of them happens to be on commercial, and happens to be on residential. You want to minimize the differences there so that people aren't shouting at each other.
Downtown just to do some
Didn't you just say though that when this goes into effect, somebody that's had it there, it still would, they would have to,
They would have, they would
the
have,
new rules.
we would give them a period of time to
Right.
bring it into compliance.
Right. So
Because
that
it-
shouldn't happen.
Well, again, it's that just differentiate. You want to be careful about making the commercial rules too lenient and the residential rules too tight, because especially downtown, we have residential right across the street from commercial in a lot of locations. And you might want to say the downtown district is a no. That's that downtown corridor. You might want to say, the downtown district is designed very specifically. That's still a no. But you also have to consider who's in the downtown district. We have a brand new facility with a yurt that's being built. That's a prime example of a company who could probably use a container to store landscaping equipment.
Well, I would like to see an attempt at that differentiation.
Okay.
And then maybe put something there about size,
And
maximum
as well,
size.
and size might be one of those aspects that would be different.
But I kind of like how we're going. I know Susan wouldn't want any, but we got to compromise somewhere, and I think this is.
Well, I don't know that we have to compromise somewhere.
Hey, you two, don't start
We
fighting.
need to move it to the correct place in the code.
We have to listen to our constituents.
That's right.
Meet in the middle somewhere.
Including the one sitting here at the table.
So again, back to my question of another one. What are you asking for today?
Right now,
Guidance.
permission.
That is, it says a motion on how to proceed. What does that mean?
Permission to proceed, direction to proceed. The agreement the last time is that you would at least talk about it.
Yes.
So if this is something that you're willing to entertain, I can craft an ordinance for review at the next meeting. And if that's then acceptable at the following meeting, we can hold a public hearing and do a vote on the ordinance.
So your request today is just, it says on how to proceed.
Yes.
Which we told them.
How is a pretty big word.
Yes.
We gave you
Your
some.
motion might be, drop it. And
I'm going there.
no, that's absolutely.
I think we should make a motion to proceed with the ordinance, including the changes with the residential versus commercial, including sizes.
And bring it back for review. All those in favor?
No, you got a second.
Oh,
Okay.
we got a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
I'm still gonna vote no.
Okay.
Until I see something acceptable.
We're getting closer, Dan. We're getting closer. Now we are back to the memorial benches.
No, that's,
Oh, wait.
I should have
It's in
all,
July.
I have been told I will have all the details for that by the July meeting.
okay.
Whether that's true or not,
Updated fees. Number 7.
Updated fees for fiscal year 2027.
yes, that is right.
So where is that? 70?
So page 69 is the cover sheet. This is just the annual fee.
So reading this, I just felt bad for anybody that wants something.
Yeah.
It seems like a lot of money, and I don't know what other cities do, what basis we come up with the fee.
Cost recovery.
I'm talking about like the copies and things.
I mean, there's a long list,
Right.
and a lot of them are quite expensive.
So in the scheme of things, our fees are actually really small. Many cities have, I mean, we only have 2 pages. Many cities have 20.
And the only things that changed this year would be like SDCs. And then utilities, which with that all starts the new fiscal year. We haven't updated any other fee amount.
Okay, so that's
Those
good
are all
to
the
know.
standard for the last several years.
Now, I did say I was going to include a demolition fee,
Yeah.
but I still haven't figured out what the demolition fee with the county is, so I have not included it. If we pass a demolition requirement, or permit requirement, we will bring a fee at that time.
And sort of related to this, I would like us to have on the agenda, and if somebody else would second that, about when citizens want information, like freedom of information request, or they just want some document. It seems like, at least from what I hear, that that's really, really expensive. And partially it depends, I mean, if they want everything that we have in our files, yeah, that's expensive, but.
So we follow a process that's dictated by state law.
That's the right.
No, it's not, the Freedom of Information Act is federal.
Okay.
Oregon has the public records law.
Okay.
And that dictates very specifically under ORS 192 how you respond to a public records request. We do cost recovery on that. A lot of folks get very upset because of some of the different cost recovery, and it's about scope of what they ask for. So if you ask for a large search that's going to take some time, or if you ask for a lot of documents that need to be redacted, which in some of the cases that we were getting, there's a cost associated with that. We get an estimated of those costs by the staff member affected, and they say it's going to take me, so for example, we had one that was 80 pages that was going to need to be redacted by our attorney because it was threatened to be involved in a lawsuit. Well, that means that attorney has to read and redact certain information on every page. And you give us an estimation of time, we do cost recovery based on that, it generated a number. And I know a lot of people are like, oh my God, it's so expensive. Unfortunately, that's the reality. I will give you an example. When I did a public records request for email from Oregon State University, it cost $700. It is not uncommon to get large numbers when you're asking for a search, when you're asking for staff time, and when you're asking for a review in accordance with Oregon law. We are pretty much following the numbers by the book. Matter of fact, when we get one now, that's even questionable. We've refined our policy on that. We send it to what's called a public records advocate to ensure that we are being consistent with what they would expect to see.
Where is this public records advocate?
It's a state position.
Okay.
It's a state, there's actually 2 lawyers up in the pulpit there. And we say, hey, this is how we're responding. Does this make sense? And they have corrected me a couple times and said, no, this is actually exempt. You can't release that in one case. Or another time it's like, no, you should totally release that. That's fine. But you need to be careful of this, this, and this. And that's usually where the staff time comes in.
Is that an exchange of information that the person requesting it could see?
In general, we have provided, because it's speaking with an attorney, it's a little different. But in general, we have provided that kind of guidance when we get it in our response letter. You know, as we're required to under ORS, I think it's ORS 192.324, we're supposed to provide a breakdown of how we arrived at those fees. We usually provide that in detail and say, do you want to proceed? The only change that we have made substantially is we now have set a minimum fee. We were getting a lot of requests, and every single one of them, to follow the Oregon law, takes about 45 minutes, just to comply with the requirements to follow up and comply with Oregon law. I know that there have been a lot of people who say, oh no, you go here, you ask for this. Technically, those organizations, by just handing the piece of paper and saying, oh, here it is, it's fine. Those organizations are not meeting the requirement. They're providing the document, but they're not meeting the required responses under ORS 192. We have been told very specifically, we must meet the required responses under Oregon 192.
I know I just requested some stuff from the county and the sheriff's department. Emails, they go by hour, $60 an hour, 1 hour minimum. Yeah, so anything electronic through email, it's $60 an hour, so.
Is there any record kept of the number of requests that
Yes.
they wanted?
We actually, and again, I'm having a conversation next week with Civic Plus about our new website, but we actually have the framework from a site build. Every request will get logged, the documentation of the request, and then the response, so that if somebody requests a document or whatever, in the future, the next person, we can say, it's already up, look at our public record, somebody's already requested it, and it's already been paid for. And so they don't have, so they will be available. I don't know what our time frame is, but it will be available for a specific amount of time, probably about a year, where we will retain that list.
So that's all the documents they asked?
Yep,
Would be there?
they will be provided online, and I know that we've already done that once in this last year.
So from those, you could sort of pick and choose what pieces you wanted, or?
You could.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds good.
We need to approve the new rate?
Yeah, you need a motion to, and it's specific. Motion accepting the rate structure as proposed, no, that's the wrong one. Motion to amend Exhibit 1, Resolution 1303. We do this so that we don't have to pass a new resolution every single time. We just amend Resolution 1303, which was the resolution adopting the fee structure.
So that was earlier, because that doesn't fall,
Yep.
we were at 1330 something
Yeah,
else.
it was 30 resolutions earlier.
All right.
But we did that so in the future, we won't have to pass a resolution every time. We just amend that resolution every time.
All right. So can I get a motion to amend Exhibit 1 of Resolution 1303, establishing yearly fees as stated or as amended?
I so move.
I'll second.
I got a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion carries. That amendment carries. And we already did the doll review, right?
Yes.
So now we're at the water resolution accepting the source water protection plan.
It's actually, I typed that and then I realized it's the drinking water protection plan. I keep calling it the source water protection because that's really what we're talking about. But this is the plan that we've held for 2 public meetings. It's available online. It is effectively it is almost identical to the natural hazard mitigation plan in terms of we identify things that could go wrong that could affect our water supply. And then we identify different ways over the course of short-term, medium-term, and long-term that we can plan. We had both a meeting talking about the hazards, and then we held a meeting that we talked specifically about our action plans. That meeting was attended by 2 people. And one of them was Garrett. We've had some, we had a lot of industry partners participate in the conference calls. And this is just one of those things that you produce. We got a grant to do it from Business Oregon, so it's not gonna cost the city anything, but we produce it, it goes on a shelf. And then as we take actions to do it, we can seek money for those actions. Matter of fact, we're already applying for one grant in particular that is tied to a source water action for monitoring up at Ekman. And the nice thing there is that DEQ loves that because they're doing a project at Ekman about the lake itself. And they would love to have our numbers on the monitoring. And we'd love to have somebody else pay for the monitoring stations, which are really expensive. So it works out for everybody involved.
So this is the approval of the resolution, is that correct?
Yes. Number 1337.
I move that we approve resolution 1337.
Can I get a second?
She didn't.
I got a first and a second by Jamie.
No,
All those,
Michelle.
or Michelle, sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution 1337 passes. You've got the city manager's report, right?
Yep. We'll try to go quickly. The city has completed its report to ODOT. Thank you for Jaime for walking the sidewalk, for driving the sidewalk, and taking the video necessary. We're waiting to hear that it's all done. We did get crosswalks painted up there, which looked nice.
Yeah, that's good.
Nothing was really changed from the sewer to the industrial park, other than we met with Ray yesterday, and they're going to start the design proposal here shortly. Ray is from West End, our engineering firm. The wastewater project, the permit for the extension was approved. There was a change order. This is typical in a construction project when you dig into the ground. They found that one of the manholes was not exactly all the way installed from way back in the day. And so to correctly do it, they actually have to replace it. So it's going to be about an extra $40,000 or so. That is not uncommon when things aren't done necessarily exactly the way they should have been. Our engineer literally asked me when he said, "Hey, this is going to be a change order. Do you want to do it quick or do you want to do it the correct way?" And I said, somebody 20 years from now is going to be kicking me if I do it the quick way. So we're doing it the correct way. Southworth Park, the walkways. I don't know if you've gotten an opportunity to get down there. The walkways have all been installed. Looks really cool. We also have both the gazebos and the dog parks have been installed and secured.
I've already gotten so many compliments on those.
Yeah, it
So many compliments.
seems to have gone over very well. It's one of the big, so last year we had two big requests. The first was any shade and the second was water. So we got the shade done and we're going to work on getting water there for a short bit. The kickoff meeting for the pump track design is next week. This is something that you guys approved a year ago. This is just the preliminary, like the engineering firm is going to produce what's called a pre-engineering plan for a design of the track. Once we have that piece of paper, it costs us about $10,000. Once we have that piece of paper, I can start applying to all these funding places with that piece of paper that says, hey, look, we want to do this. And that is the pre-engineering plan on Southwood Park is one of the primary reasons we got the grant for Southwood Park. So I'm very excited. I really hope that in the next few years, we'll be talking about the installation of the pump track.
Are you only having the one meeting?
No.
There's gonna be
Oh yeah, this is just the kickoff meeting. This is everybody getting to know everybody. Do you want to be part of that?
I do, but I'm not gonna be here whenever your meeting is. I thought I read about it somewhere.
Okay.
What day is it? It's this week, isn't it?
It's
coming
next.
week?
It's next.
Next week, yeah, not
Okay. What I will do is I will ask that you be included on the work group,
yeah.
and then you can start getting all the
Change my mind.
So it was our last librarian, Sue, and her husband that were really into this. Are they still?
They were into the RC track.
Oh, okay, so this
So
is different.
the pump track. Well, the nice thing about a pump track is that there is nothing that precludes somebody from running their little RC car around it, and it would be a very nice track for that.
So what is a
However,
pump track?
a pump track is a bicycle track for someone who with hills and curves and valleys that you don't have to, you just literally pump up and down as you're going around them. You don't have to pedal around the entire course. And they're incredibly popular. We're seeing them starting to spread up. We want to be the first one out here on the coast, but the Redmond one is just packed constantly. We think it'll be a nice thing for the summer for kids. I get that we don't have the same weather that Redmond does, and it won't have the same appeal year round. But if we can get grant funding for it, it's a great opportunity to have kids come down, get some physical exercise. They're a lot of fun. People really like them. And there's some large bicycle clubs. In fact, the new owners of Bike Newport are super enthusiastic about this stuff.
And what's happening with our pickleball?
We have sent out a request to 3 different companies that do the surfacing and the netting. And as soon as we get a number that I'm happy with, we will get that installed, get the fences around and get those up. Those will probably go up before the basketball court is finished. I do have a bid for the basketball court concrete and the other court concrete. I'm just going through the finances right now. And actually, because I'm going through the finances right now, I'll probably put together a kind of an updated report and have that for you at the next council meeting of where we are. But I just want to make sure that the $50,000 for that concrete is something we can afford in the budget. But we're going to end up doing it probably anyways. It's just a matter of how we do it. Yeah, the pickleball, we're getting some pretty nosy people or some pretty demanding people asking about the pickleball.
Excited.
They're
Excited.
excited.
Yes, excited. That's the word I would use, excited. The Small Cities Grant, allotment grant has been applied for. This is the portion of Crestline. We're expecting NODOT to come and do a review of that anytime. I'm very hopeful that will succeed. I think that will be a tremendous benefit. As I said to one of the engineers, this is not something I expect to last 30 years. This is something I expect to last 10 years while we find more major funding to secure that road.
And we were able to point to the National Hazard Mitigation Plan.
Thank you.
Yep. You were indeed. The library will be closed on Monday and Tuesday. It will be closed because we're replacing the roof there. We've also identified, and I'm meeting with a contractor this weekend, we've identified the last 3 leaks remaining at the interpretive center, and he's got a plan. I don't know what the plan is yet, but I always like when somebody says they have a plan. The audit update, obviously we've gotten a lot farther than that now. I think it's important to note that the road district and the urban renewal district audits, the state has allowed us to file reports in lieu of audit because the funding is below the threshold. We don't spend anything out of them really. And so that is all up to date through 2026. Or 2025, sorry, 2026 closes in 3 weeks. But we will have those done by the end of July for 2026 because those are really simple. We have sent out the job applications and we received some acceptances. We've had some movement around there and I'll have more detail for you when that all settles out. But we will have a project and safety officer for the first time. That will be very important. I'm looking forward to that position coming on board and handling a lot of the little projects that tend to fall to the wayside. One of the things that I'm going to task him with at the start is getting the speed signs up on Highway 101. The second thing I'm going to task him with is not only the sidewalk inventory, but getting some of the camera positions, getting the coordination for the downstairs bathroom to be reopened securely. So looking forward to that position, the guy seems very, very smart, so I think it's going to be a good fit. And then we've got a water plant operator who's excited. I'm happy about this hire because he was a layoff from Hatfield with OSU doing these actions. And it's always nice to catch a really talented person who is just needing a different profession. That sounds like the end of it, but I have 3 more things. The first is the gazebos. Obviously, we talked about that a little bit. The 4 gazebos for the large picnic areas, which I didn't talk about, we are holding off until after the beachcombers because of how the events are set up. And then that person is going to schedule time to come back and do those. My concern was that they would be partially up during beachcombers, which is not a good idea for anybody. The second, and this one is exciting, we found a company that will install all of our meters for about $60 a meter, a little under $60 a meter. Our meters will be done and installed, all the meters, we have 900 left, will be installed by mid-July. So that is super exciting. It, you know, again, it's one of those things that they can go so much faster because they do it all the time, that our guys who don't do it all the time get called off for distractions. So this is a great win-win, and, you know, well under our contingency budget. I will be bringing you the contingency expenditure in July for that, but we're looking at probably about $45,000 to finish that up. And that's great. That's super exciting. And then last, I'm sorry? Smart meters? Yes, the internet meters. And then finally, the cameras. We've talked about wanting to live stream here. We have some specific requirements. We've been ghosted by a couple vendors. We now have a vendor who's got a signed contract. They will be installing the system. It is plug and play, i.e. we will walk in, we will press a button to start, and it will record the meeting. I'm not sure it's going to stream live or it will stream right afterwards, but we will press it to stop, and it will upload to YouTube and it will be done. The goal here is that it's simple, easy, and not something that staff have to pay attention to while we're trying to run a meeting. It will not be interactive. We are not going to try to do an interactive meeting of any sort. You know, if that's something we want down the long term, but in the past, there are all sorts of problems with that, but we will be at least broadcasting the meetings. And that's all I got.
Yeah, that's hard.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Wow, I can't believe it. Jaime took the initiative and wrote a grant to, it's ODOT, right? Yeah, Safe Routes to Schools. Safe Routes to Schools for a traffic garden. Do you want to describe what a traffic garden is?
Yeah, a traffic garden is a miniaturized set of intersections, roadway rules, striping, that kind of stuff, geared toward little kids so that they can learn the rules of the road, and they could go out there and kind of walk on their bikes or ride their bikes, that kind of stuff, and learn about stop signs, learn about passing lanes, learn about who has the right of way on the road, that kind of stuff. And the grant is actually not a big dollar grant, but it hires a consultant to design this area for us, and then our public works, et cetera, can then go paint it, or volunteers can help paint it. But we're looking at the area between the gym and the community garden, like 100 by 100 area. There's existing pavement there, and again, the grant's only like $10,000 or $15,000. So no cost to us except maybe some material that we go to paint it. But if you do traffic garden, Google search it, it comes up, and it's actually really cool, like little miniaturized intersections, roundabouts, stop signs, and that kind of stuff.
It's absolutely adorable. Some could have like little miniature traffic.
Some have traffic lights, probably.
Probably not.
It would be really cool.
Not yet.
Yeah.
It would be really
right next to the pump track.
Yep.
All right. Anyone, that's council comments, concerns? Jerry? Michelle?
No.
Jamie? Sue?
I just have one question. Will now that we have the audit and we have starting numbers that we didn't have, will the budget that we just passed, will that be modified at all?
I can't imagine that over the course of I mean, I don't think until we get to the 2025, 2026 audits, we'll have budget changes unless we find something substantial. And here's the reason. Okay, maybe they have us make a JV change of $15,000 a couple years ago. It has been very rare that we've actually spent the entire amount into budget. And so generally, we're going to absorb a $15,000 change. If it's to the negative, we're going to absorb that without actually going over anything. So it will be pretty unlikely. We will have, I believe, some actions when the audit's completed. They will give us a list of any actions they feel is necessary, and we would bring those to the council.
I mean, there's just been so much discussion about, our budgets can't be trusted because we don't have that opening number, so that's why I'm asking
The
about it.
biggest challenge there is, there's two things. It's like going back and saying, looking at your checkbook and saying, oh, wow, in 2022, my wife bought this mattress and, I was supposed to pay her back half of it. Well, in 2023, we went on vacation and I paid for the whole thing, so we're gonna call it a wash. I expect that as we get closer, if we see anything substantial, we may have to make adjustments. But we're talking about making adjustments to the record, not necessarily making adjustments to the balances. Because we know what those balances, we have a pretty clear idea of what the balances are because of our accounting software. So when we come to the new year and I see an expected balance of $950,000 in this account, and we have $948,262, I'm like, okay, well, that's within the margin of expected error, and when we catch up, they'll make a minor correction and we'll reconcile. But I know that we did have Eisler in 2022 to do a reconciliation for our budget that took us up through 2022 start, and we were, some of our budgets were within $10. So I'm not necessarily thinking we're gonna see any major changes.
I just know it's been the point's been made over and over and over again, that, the budgets mean nothing because,
Yeah, I just think that they're not necessarily operating with full information, or how municipal budgets work.
Has the auditor given you any commitments on the next audits? You said.
No, because we have to finish this one.
Right.
They don't want to give a commitment to the next one when we haven't provided them the off-ramp for this one. Since they now know the numbers though, and I think this is the really important thing to state, since they now know the numbers in the framework, one of the delays that they indicated to me was that they didn't really feel comfortable with the previous auditor's numbers, and they had to rebuild a lot of that, and they found a lot of discrepancies. They're not going to have that same problem with themselves.
Right.
So I expect that future audits, given that they already have most of that information, will go substantially more quickly. And by substantially, I mean they should be able to punch everything in, just verify a couple things and be done. The only challenge is, and I'm going to provide a timeline to this online on our website, in 2022, we started switching accounting software. So they are going to have to reconcile between the previous accounting software and the new Springbrook software. It should be relatively easy to do, especially since Springbrook we can provide much more detailed reports than the old stuff. But they are going to have to do that, and that may be a little bit of a hiccup. But we will have guidance on that for you from them specifically.
Good. Now, the only thing I had, the website. Do we have, I know.
I'm talking to them. I have a conference call scheduled. So we had a conference call with them scheduled for Wednesday at 11. She forgot which coast we were on. And we did not make the call. And she was profusely apologetic. We have another call scheduled for this week. And we've not only verified it in time zone and everything else, and she said she will absolutely be on that call. I will have an update for you after I have that call.
So is what we have now, what the new, or is this the old we're struggling with? Because I find it really
The new is going to be very different than what we have right now. What we have right now, I'm struggling with as well, which is why thankfully Civic Plus is totally better. So, and hopefully it will be much, much more conducive to planning. One of the things that I'm really looking forward to is they have a different way of approaching agendas and minutes, and that seems to be much, much better than what we have right now, and that will really streamline getting minutes and agendas in place.
It just, there seems to be several different sites. Some
Sites,
stuff
yeah.
is on one thing, stuff's on another.
So that is
And there's
unfortunate.
not links.
Yeah, that is the unfortunate thing that is we're really seeing more and more of is the compartmentalized, and as things move to the cloud, they put it up to the cloud, it's not a direct link, you have to go to a folder. This site should be better at that.
And it'll have areas for comments for like, people that have questions? Didn't you say you were gonna have?
Yeah, we're gonna have a public feedback forum on there, so that when we get a question, I'll bring those to the council with answers. The council will say, yes, put that up, and it puts that up. Unless it's something really basic, like when is the fireworks? By the way, the most common question I've gotten over the last week is when is our July 3rd? And this is the thing, they even put it in the question, when is the July 3rd fireworks show? I'm assuming they're talking time, so I always tell them.
When it's dark.
When it's dark. But it really gets me, what day is the July 3rd fireworks show? It's literally an email I've gotten in the last 2 days. So, we've now got it on our website, by the way. So it's on our schedule of events.
So it's on July 3rd.
When it starts.
Okay, oh, someone had a question?
I have a comment,
Okay,
because I want it in minutes. So I'm just an average citizen, audience member, and I understood perfectly what Dan said last month at the meeting about reviewing the audit today. You know, our mayor wasn't here, so maybe she misunderstood, but I mean, that show was ridiculous in my mind. So I just wanted to say that.
I think we're really trying to be transparent, and more transparent in the best way we can. And that's why I thought, bringing this forward, even though it's just a draft, at least people were able to see it and ask questions. I'm sorry that it turned out that way today. It was unfortunate, but that's why we're doing it. To really try to be more transparent to the people.
I think the frustrating thing from the staff side of this is that we've been reaching out to the mayor, the recorder's been reaching out to the mayor just to confirm her attendance at this meeting. This was a relatively long meeting. We had a full agenda with some items that she had personally requested. And she moved the things so that she could leave up to the front of the agenda so that she could get out of here. It really feels like she doesn't want to be here, but that she doesn't want to say that she doesn't want to be here. It's very frustrating.
Okay, you guys, we'll stick around for a second. Do you want to get pictures of us with all the hats? Other than that, meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.
I'm gonna wear a hat no matter how.
Well, folks, that meeting definitely got a little spicy today as the mayor left, citing ethical concerns. But there was a lot of business that got handled, some very interesting and informative presentations. Thank you all for joining me. Be sure to get out there and vote on the recall this July 14th, and I will catch you all on the next one, folks. Thank you very much.